So Strand is officially here, and if you have finished the Lightfall campaign, then you are fortunate enough to have it completely unlocked. Well, not completely unlocked. So we do have some aspects and fragments that will be gate kept. They're going to be behind a time wall that will roll out over the course of the next few weeks. So we can expect more from Strand soon. But for the time being, we do have enough information, enough aspects and fragments and grenades and all that stuff unlocked to at least get a basic understanding for how these subclasses work and whether or not they're going to be any good in PvP. So I'm taking a quick break from my grinding just to update you on my thoughts on the Broodweaver subclass so far, and then I will probably do follow-up videos to talk about the Titan and the Hunter as well. So the Broodweaver's whole thing, they told us, is about controlling these threadling minions and having an army of them that you can send out there. And that really is what I found the Warlock's Broodweaver subclass to be all about. At first, I took this subclass into PvP and I tried to use these abilities in direct combat with people, sort of like powerhouse abilities like you would with standard subclasses, and I found that it was extremely underwhelming. But that's because I completely missed the whole point of this subclass and how you're supposed to play it. For the Warlocks at least, Strand exists to supplement your gameplay, to support your gunplay, and to offer little chunks of damage here and there consistently throughout your gameplay that will help you win engagements. More or less, the Strand abilities for the Warlock are relatively slow, so you can't just use them in real time in the middle of a gunfight and expect them to give you immediate results. That's not how they work. So I had to change how and when I used them. So let's start with the basics. We'll start with the grenade. So with the grenade, I chose to use the Threadling grenade because that one in particular offers, I think, the best support for the Warlock subclass. You have the Shackle grenade where you can throw it directly and suspend targets, but that synchronizes really well with the Titan subclass in particular. You've got the Grapple, which I think works best with Hunter movement overall. And so for the Warlock, I'm using the Threadling grenade because it's going to send out more minions for me, and that's what this subclass is all about and how it thrives. So with this grenade, I have two options. I can throw it out directly, and over time, over the course of its flight pattern, it will shatter into 3 different threadlings that will land on the ground and then go seek out targets. And they seek for a good while. Each threadling is capable of doing 40 damage, but I found that they don't like to gang up on somebody unless that's really the only target there. Generally speaking, they try to fan out and go in different directions, so don't expect all 3 of them to converge on a single enemy. That did happen sometimes, but I found more often than not, they tried to split up and find separate targets. Now, I found this to be really good for 2 things. 1, priming targets, and 2, cleaning up targets. So if somebody were to, say, throw up a barricade after I ripped their shields, I would then throw that grenade up over their barricade. It would split off into 3 and then come back and kill them. Or if I were to hit a Hunter, they dodge roll for cover, and then I throw it at the corner, it'd go finish them up. Alternatively, if I could see that people were coming around the corner on my radar, I would throw it out in advance, and then I would follow those threadlings into the engagement. And so they would prime targets for me, do 40 damage here, 40 damage there. And that really helps me in my gunfight because I don't have as much work to do. But like I said, you have 2 options with these grenades. The other thing you can do if you're using the proper aspect is that you can consume the grenade, and that will instead create threadlings that hang out around you. They'll just follow you. They won't go on their own. They'll stick with you. They'll stick with Mama Warlock. And whenever you get into a gunfight, that's when they're going to engage. So say, okay, mommy's fighting, I got to go help. And then they'll shoot out and start doing damage and seeking players out. The other thing that happens with these suspended threadlings that aren't going out on their own, they're staying with you, is that you can actually deploy them on command with your Rift, and that's connected to the other aspect, and that's where we're going to go next. So with the Rift ability with the Broodweaver, according to the aspect, if you have it equipped, is that you can throw down the Rift, and when you do so, it's going to shoot out a few threadlings that are going to go hunting things down. But let's say that you consumed your grenade, and now you have 6 threadlings instead of just 3. So now you have a whole army of threadlings that are going to go out and do a ton of damage. So you can consume the grenade and then drop the Rift whenever you feel like it's the appropriate time when you got people coming around the corner. And then you're going to send out an army of these threadlings. They're just going to cause chaos. They're going to help you and your teammates out and give you a whole bunch of supplementary damage. Next, let's move on to the melee abilities. So this is the Arcane Needle. You can get up to 3 charges with it. I find this to be probably the weakest part of the Warlock subclass. They do not track very well, and they don't travel particularly fast either, so you really have to lead your shots and be accurate with them. When they do land, they do a good chunk of damage, about 60 damage, But generally speaking, in the amount of time it takes you to do that animation, you can do more damage with a gun. Because it's not just 60 damage immediately and then you're back to shooting. You have to go through the whole animation of doing the throw of that needle. So it's good if you get to the bottom of your magazine, but where I found it to really shine is when I'm jumping around a corner and I just want to get a quick chunk of damage off, and I'm not planning on like landing accurate shots while I'm flying through the air. So I jump into the lane and just toss a needle down the corridor and hope that it hits something. And then that's a quick leg up in the firefight if I've landed that. And they're unraveled now, so they're going to be shooting off these tiny little threads. They're going to do about 4 damage each, but it's just good supplementary damage. Now let's talk about Tangles. Every time you defeat an enemy who has been unraveled, it's the basic debuff of the Strand subclass. So if they're affected by his Strand ability and then you kill them, they're going to create a Tangle. And you've got a couple of options with that Tangle. You can go pick it up and then go chuck it at somebody. And if you hit them with that Tangle, it's going to do 100 damage. And also apply the Unravel debuff as well. But you could also shoot it and apply that debuff and AoE damage in a radius. If it's too far away from you, it's right next to a bad guy, you can't just run up and pick it up. So you just want to shoot it instead, detonate it, do a big chunk of damage. You can do that too. But then if you're using the new Warlock exotic boots, the Swarmers, anytime you destroy one of those Tangles, it's also going to shoot off 2 additional Threadlings as well. So again, this just really synergizes with the whole Threadling controlling your minions vibe of the Warlock. So I'll do that from time to time as well. Although I have to say overall the Swarmers don't feel like they have a whole lot of utility. I mean they do help every now and then, but not as consistently as something like a movement exotic, a fitting aspects that are just there all the time, always working, always helping. You have to create Tangles and then destroy those Tangles to get a couple of Threadlings. So the amount of mileage you're going to get out of these exotic boots is kind of limited. They're cool when they work though, I will say that. And then finally you have the super, the Needlestorm, and this is a really cool super, I will say. So you're going to throw out these psychically controlled missiles, these needle missiles, and they will kill anything on contact, at least in the Crucible. And then beyond that, they're also going to drop a whole bunch of these Threadlings that are going to go out and seek out additional targets. And they go really far. So there's a clip here on Widow's Court, for example, where I throw the super at the top of the stairs up by the A flag. And I kill 2 enemies with it, but then also the Threadlings run down the stairs, go through the courtyard, and all the way over to the church, and start damage, do like 80 damage to a guy that's hiding behind the wall. And that's like 100 yards away. Like, that's a big deal. So this super has a whole lot of utility, but you are really vulnerable when you pop it, so you have to be careful about when and where you do it. I recommend that you don't pop it reflexively. When you're in combat, taking damage, you're like, oh crap, I'll pop my super. That's probably not going to work. So you want to read your radar, come around the corner, maybe high, maybe low, and then pop the super in order to get the most mileage out of it. But overall, I really enjoy the Warlock's Strand subclass. I think that it's really fun, the Broodweaver. I think it has a lot of utility, but you have to sort of change the way that you think about engagements, change the way that you think about using these abilities. Because like I said, they're not like for direct, immediate damage. They require foresight, they require planning. They're going to be out there all the time helping, supplementing your gunplay. And I had a lot of fun making that transition and starting to really get the hang of Strand on the Warlock. I was using my rifts and my grenades to apply damage before the fight ever started, going into it with an army of helpers to sort of just create general chaos for me. And on top of that, a lot of times after I die, my Threadlings are doing additional work to help my teammates out, and I'm getting credit for those kills, even though I'm at a respawn screen. Do I think the Broodweaver is S tier in PvP? I don't think it is quite yet. It might get there eventually, but not right now. Maybe with the new fragments that we're going to get access to, it might ramp this subclass up a little bit, give us a little bit more utility. As of right now, I think it's really good, but I don't think it's S tier. I don't think it's meta breaking. And maybe they learned from Stasis. They were just too afraid to ship something that was just completely and utterly busted, which I totally understand. But I think it takes a little practice to get used to these subclasses, so best of luck to you out there. Let me know what you're thinking about these subclasses as well. Are you having fun with them? What tips and tricks are you picking up with them as well? Let me know in the comments section. I'm looking forward to getting some weapon reviews out to you guys ASAP as well. And be warm and well fed, my friends, and hope to catch you in the Crucible.